Hello and welcome to follow our never-ending renovation of our abandoned house, where we do things the hard way. In this episode we finish up a clay plaster, I make edible wallpaper adhesive, we start the work on getting electricity back to the house, and use a traditional method to cover up our crooked walls.
Mä muistelen sitä, että 2K-hollista sovea ja 5K-hollista hemporaadia.
Voisiko tehdä toiseen ämpäriin samanlainen setti? Samanlainen. Ei tarvii rämpätä koko ajan.
The clay plaster on our house has been going on for a couple of years or so, not because it takes that much time, but because we've been waiting for both inspiration and the right kind of weather. And there's always something more urgent in the way. When we first took down the old wall coverings here in the kitchen, the log walls looked incredible. They were hand-carved and completely black. But due to surprising rot problems on the northern end of the house, we had to get massive log replacements done, which resulted in mismatched walls that looked like a complete mess. So it was best to cover up the walls. When I was thinking about what we should be doing with these walls, I came across clay plastering. I thought that would be a great way to both level the walls up and leave a nice surface. In preparations for that, we started to fill up the gaps between the logs a couple of years ago. It was the first easy job here that we got to do. I remember when we were installing it, I said that working with the clay is so easy and so fun. We left the clay to dry, and when we returned back to the house a few days later, all the clay we had installed was growing mold. So we took it all down and had to start again. Maybe it was because of poor air circulation or the air moisture outside, but I was not gonna risk the same thing again.
Hän on kyllä myös lohkeilla. Täytyy jollain huopanaulalla laittaa se kiinni siihen. Täytyy laittaa siihen joku viimeistelevä kerros vielä.
So this time we came prepared. We had our fans and many warm days ahead. It was the perfect clay plaster weather. Our yard has been like a landfill for all the time we've owned the house. There's piles of unusable lumber and stuff waiting to be recycled here and there. But now, it's this pile's time to move, because it's in the way of our new electric line. The only goal at this point is to get the floor heating on in the bathroom, to keep the frost out, and maybe have even a couple of power sockets indoors. Now, if you've been here for a while, you might have heard how much I hate shoveling. We've had a lot of experience as we dug out tons and tons of soil from inside the house and then shoveled tons and tons of gravel back in. I feel pure hate for shoveling. And what do we have here? The first thing to do here is to dig a hole from the switchboard to the house. Another thing neither of us gets along with is extremely hot weather.
Kuka haluaa elää kuumuudessa?
But the universe seemed to be wanting to maximize our misery this day, because apparently shoveling in almost 30 degrees Celsius wasn't enough. The last bits of the shoveling, or do you say hoeing? It was easier as the hard clay was already removed when we installed the under drains, so we could basically just scrape the gravel up. A few breakdowns and 2 hoe handles later, it was finished. Thinking back, it seems like a ridiculously small task, but when you're filled with hate, everything seems harder than it is. Actually, I think that's a valid life lesson to think about.
Tää on ihan luoti suora täältä alusta, mutta sitten se yhtäkkiä lähtee So here we are, 2 steps forward and 1 step back as usual. So this obviously needs to come off. I'm gonna try to make a new batch and do that again, and same goes here. This obviously doesn't work, so I'm gonna take parts of it off and do it again. There's no other option. That will do. you can kind of hear where it hasn't attached. So I guess, yeah. Started to think if I should have like sprayed this with water. Would it stick better? I don't know. We were supposed to put on a proper clay plaster on top of this and use that as a surface level, but I found an even cheaper option, which is Wallpaper, and it costs like 30 euros for 30 square meters of the paper, so that's the way to go. I'm hoping this was the last time I have to get this bucket out.
Next, we were going to start installing the rack paper. There was a few things to learn about the process beforehand, and one, maybe not mandatory, but interesting part was to make my own edible wallpaper paste. The recipe is very simple. Mix about 10 or 12 deciliters of flour into 1 liter of cold water, and then mix it with 8 liters of boiling water. And that's basically it. Let it simmer for about 10 minutes and then let it cool.
Aivan märkä vieläkin. Ja tämä tulee olemaan helppoa, kun mä itse asiassa läpetään, kun mä saan tapetoitu meidän edessä. Tästä tähän.
Rack paper is still sold in the Nordic countries. It is available in some of the regular hardware stores as an underlayment paper installed beneath laminate flooring. So it's basically easily available, but I guess only a fraction of people actually know that you could use it this way. The traditional way of installing rack paper is in sheets. Originally the small sheets were used because that was the only way rack paper was produced and sold. You could also install it in full 1 meter width, but as a lover of all things wonky and fun, I of course wanted to use the original method. And it's also easier to install here in these very crooked walls. But before we could start, we filled up the gaps between the door frames and the walls with flax tow. The point of it is to stop the draft, and we have used this method all around the windows in this house, and also on the ceiling and in the floor. It always takes a while to find the working methods that makes the job easier and quicker, and battling with simple things like this makes me feel like an idiot. But always, every time, after a few tries, you find the ways that makes the work smoother. And eventually we became a little 2-person rack paper factory. At first I forgot that the paper sheets needed to be dampened before applying the paste, so we hung the first wall without doing so. Everything worked out without it, but what I noticed was that the installation was much more difficult.
Vahvista sitä ennen kuin luot, sä sanot, että aina neuvot sä teet.
We have been away for a couple of days, so let's go and see how the rack paper looks like. If it's growing mold or mushrooms, anything's possible here. That has happened quite a few times, by the way. So, yeah. Whoa! I'm a bit shocked that it's actually this good. At first I actually hated this. I did not understand why someone would want these kind of squares on their walls, but as the time went by and I saw more and more of these, I started to like them a lot, because instantly there's no paint here. It's already a beautiful color. I could leave it like it is, but then again I do like color, so I'm not gonna leave it like it is. And it's like a piece of art on its own, like these squares. I don't know, somehow it looks like this could be a wall in an ancient castle or something. This obviously isn't one, but yeah, I like it. The installation has many steps, but it's so nice to work on because you can be a bit careless. Like these corners, they don't have to match if you're trying to achieve like a historic look. This was not the original idea for these walls. The original idea was to have clay plaster, which would have made these walls a bit more like level and straight and fancy and finished. But then the further we went, I started to like disagree with the idea of everything being so finished. So I thought that let's just embrace this mess, the house that we call a house. I have always liked the saying that if you can't make it disappear, let's like make it a statement or something. I don't know how to translate it, but for example, if you have something a bit weird or ugly in your home, like bring it out so it looks like it's meant to be there. And that's the kind of the thought that I started to have with this house too, because these walls are not straight. Here is a good example why like regular wallpaper wouldn't suit this room. This is where the wrap paper comes in handy, because here is a terrible bump and so those little pieces of wrap paper are gonna be so easy to install here. I cannot get rid of this bump, so I'm just gonna embrace it. I forgot that you should like wet these pieces before you install them. So at first this looked awful. It was so like bubbly and wobbly and it was terrible. I was sure that we need to take it off. As always, trust the process, because when these dried, they kind of tightened against the wall and they look just fine to me. I love how this paper shows through the old logs, because they have been hand carved. They are piiluhirsi in Finnish, so they have these axe marks here. The craftsmanship is still visible even though we had to cover up the walls. So that's it for today. I'm gonna change my clothes and actually continue to install the paper. So in the next video I hope I'll be able to show you the whole thing covered up. How about that?
It's an incredible thought that our walls are made of 100% natural materials. An edible wallpaper paste is just a cherry on the cake. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.